the wide Missouri.
Now let us
Sing to the power of the Lord, come down.
let us
Sing to the power of the Lord, come down.
lift up your voice.
Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Sing to the power of the Lord, come down. I'm at home in glory land that outshines the sun. Outshines the sun.
I've got a home in
Land that outshines the sun, oh, way beyond the way beyond. Do Lord, oh, do remember me, oh Lord, oh, do Lord, oh, do remember me.
Do Lord, oh,
Do Lord, oh, remember me, oh, way beyond the blue. Pray to the power of the Lord, come down. Gonna lay down my burden, down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my burden, down by the riverside. Study war no more.
I ain't gonna know. I ain't gonna know.
No, Lord, oh no.
Jesus wants to wow.
I ain't
No,
I ain't
study war no more. Study war no more.
Now let us sing.
Sing to the power of the Lord, come down. Sing to the power of the Lord, come down. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Sing to the power of the Sing, 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 sing,
I'm gonna let it show. Sing to the power
the Lord. May sing of your roses, which by other names would smell just as sweetly, they say. But I know that my rose will never consent to have that sweet name taken away. Her glances are shy whene'er I pass by, but power where my true love grows. And one wish has been that someday I may win the heart of my wild Irish rose, my rose, my wild Irish rose, the from now? Will you still be sending me a Valentine? Birthday greetings, bottle of wine. If I'd been out till 2:45, would you lock the door? Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64? You'll be older too. And if you say the word, I could stay with you. I could be handy mending a fuse when your lights have gone. You can knit a sweater by the fireside. Sunday morning, go for a ride. Doing the garden, digging the weeds. Who could ask for more? Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64? Every summer we can rent a cottage in the Isle of Wight. If it's not too dear, we shall scrimp and save. Oh, grandchildren on your knee. They're a chuck and they send me a postcard, drop me a line, stating point of view. Indicate precisely what you mean to say. You're sincerely wasting away. Give me your answer, fill in a form, mine forevermore. Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64? When I'm 64.
Nice to buy.
Oh, shoot, I don't have.
Here, look.
No, that's okay.
B. Okay. I is the boy what builds the boat, and I is the boy what sails her, and I is the boy what catches the fish and takes them home to Lizer.
Hip your partner Sally Triple, hip your partner Sally Brown, full good till the gate Morton Harbor, all around in a circle. I took Liza to a dance in faith and she could travel. Every step that she would take was up to her knees in gravel. Hip your partner Sally Triple, hip your partner Sally Brown, full good till the gate Morton Harbor, all around in a circle. Salts and rice to cover your flavor, cake and tea for supper, codfish in the spring of the year, fried in maggoty butter. Hip your partner Sally Triple, hip your partner Sally Brown, over to the Morton's Harbor, all around in a circle. Sally Brown, she's out of sight, her petticoat once a border.
Old Tom Oliver in the dark, she kissed him in the corner.
Hip your partner Sally Triple, hip your partner Sally Brown, over to the Morton's Harbor, all around in a circle. Okay.
Unitarian Universalist. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church on this beautiful sunny day in which we're going to dedicate our solar panels. Well, Nature has other ideas for us this morning, but it's still good to be in church. It's doing outside what it's supposed to do in April. So I'm glad that you all braved the rain and made it to the sanctuary here. I want to welcome you to our service as we celebrate Earth Day and we talk a little bit about Henry David Thoreau. I want to thank Stock and the Yards for the music. It's wonderful to start the service that way, and you'll hear from them again during the service. This morning, our call to worship comes from the poet Langston Hughes. It is an earth song, and I've been waiting so long for an earth song. It's a spring song. I've been waiting long for a spring song. Strong as the bursting of young buds, strong as the shoots of a new plant, strong as the coming of the first child from its mother's womb. An earth song, a body song, a spring song. And I've been waiting long for an earth song. I invite you to find one of the gray hymnals that's somewhere near you. We're going to turn in it and stand and sing number 301, Touch the Earth, Reach the Sky. We'll do all 5 verses. Please stand as you're able, sing out number 301. Please remain standing for the lighting of our chalice. In Unitarian Universalism, the flaming chalice is our most central symbol. For us, it is a light of truth and of knowledge. It is a beacon of hope and of justice, of peace and of love, and we light it at each of our services. This morning, we light our chalice with these words by Betsy Dar. May the light of this chalice give light and warmth to our community when we are joyful and when we despair. And may we feel the warmth spread from our circle into wider and wider circles until all know they belong to the one circle of life. Please be seated. Again, I want to welcome you to church this morning. It's great to see all of you here. This is a thriving, open, always changing, always imperfect congregation. It's a congregation that loves to wrestle with theology, that loves to have big ideas, and also loves to get some things done. So there's always plenty of work in a congregation. We are living in times in which we need the circles around us that support us and keep us sane and give us good work to do. So if you have been searching for a religious home, a place where you are welcome and you are able to give what you can and receive what you can, this just might be the place. Here in just a moment, we'll actually receive some new members into this church. They've been through a process of discernment, which says, this is the place for me. However imperfect, however changing, these are the people I want to be with for just right now and for the future going forward. So whether you've been coming to this service for decades and sitting in roughly the same place, or it's your very first Sunday in a Unitarian Universalist church, I want you to know that you are welcome here, and we're glad that you have joined us. And wherever you are on your spiritual path, this morning is a step in the right direction. Welcome to church this morning. And now I think I need to check my own order of service. I'd like to welcome Sue Ziegler to come up forward, and anyone else from the membership committee, and we'll welcome some new members this morning. And we'll have the new members come on up forward too. Any Sunday in a Unitarian Universalist church when we formally welcome new members is a great Sunday. The process is pretty simple here. You kind of stick around and feel like this place is yours. You wrestle with how it is in the world. You wrestle with its theological precepts, and then you do a very simple thing, which is you sign our membership book. Unless you think signing a book is something new or something not as important as some other things, this is how we've been doing it in Unitarian Universalist churches, certainly since the 1700s. The current membership book that you all have signed or will sign goes back to the 1930s, and it's fun to flip back there and to see some of the names of the members of this church from the 1930s. So welcome to all of you. We are so glad that you have found this church. We're glad that you have taken this next step to formally join us. We want to assure you that we care about each one of you. We want to get to know you. We want to learn what your ideas are, and we want to support you in whatever spiritual path you're on. These folks are just you from a few years ago, right? Do you remember how it was to come into this church the first time? Do you remember who talked to you that very first time? The first time you braved going down to coffee hour, and who came up and talked to you? And what did they talk to you about? It's probably completely unimportant, but how it made you feel is the most important thing. You all who have joined before these new members just owe them the same thing that was given to you, a little bit of curiosity, a little bit of kindness, and a whole lot of kind of attention and come on, we can do this together. So just remember how it was to come in for you and give back to these folks. We'll go down the line here. I'll just pass the mic to you. If you, Sue's going to say a word or two.
I get to have a word twice a year. I'd like to introduce the members and the members of Betsy Sigmund, Alyssa Sigmund, Darcy Pollock is away, and Caleb, who's a new member and is ill today and couldn't come, is already on our team. But I'd like to introduce, and Alyssa will step forward. This is Luke and Chelsea Whittick and their son Harvey. This is Heather Horst, Quinn Ann Henny, Pat Clark, and Christine Gillian, am I saying Jillian? Gilfillan, and this is Laura and Dominic Perfetti and Lila. We welcome you all.
Thank you all. It's great to see you this morning. Please go ahead and have a seat.
Would you please join me in today's responsive reading, which is in your gray hymnal in the back, number 550. It's titled We belong to the earth, and it's attributed to a Native American chief named Noah Sylph. This we know, the earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. This we know, all things are connected, like the blood which unites one family. All things are connected. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons and daughters of the earth. We did not weave the web of life. We are merely a strand in it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves.
It wouldn't be Earth Day without a Mary Oliver poem, so. The Mary Oliver poem I brought this morning is one called Poppies. The poppies send up their orange flares, swaying in the wind. Their congregations are a levitation of bright dust, of thin and lacy leaves. There isn't a place in this world that doesn't sooner or later drown in the indigos of darkness. But for now, for a while, the roughage shines like a miracle as it floats above everything with its yellow hair. Of course, nothing stops the cold, black, curved blade from hooking forward. Of course, loss is the great lesson. But I also say this, that light is an invitation to happiness, and that happiness, when it's done right, is a kind of holiness, palpable and redemptive. Inside the bright fields, touched by their rough and spongy gold, I am washed and washed in the river of earthly delight. And what are you going to do? What can you do about it, deep blue night? I invite you to settle in for the sermon. In a passage from Walden, toward the end of the chapter on sounds, Henry David Thoreau writes, "Sometimes on Sundays I heard the bells, the Lincoln, Acton, Bedford, and Concord bell. When the wind was favorable, a faint, sweet, as it were, natural melody, worth importing into the wilderness. At a sufficient distance over the woods, this sound acquires a certain vibratory hum, as if the pine needles in the horizon were the strings of a harp over which it swept." Each of us can picture Henry David Thoreau walking in the woods on a Sunday morning. I don't know if you've been following the PBS series on him. It's delightful. We can see him in our mind's eye somewhere near Walden Pond. We can imagine him walking in a meadow or on the shore of a river. We can see him cocking his head to hear the faint sound of church bells, the same bells that still call Unitarian Universalists to worship in Lincoln, Acton, and Bedford, and Concord, Massachusetts. We can see a small smile break out on his face as his mind is drawn to a church building by the sound of its bell, a call which he wistfully ignores. Unitarian Universalists love Henry David Thoreau. You and me are likely no exception. The church I served for 9 years, First Parish in Concord, proudly claims him as one of their own. The surrounding town honors him in street names and plaques and natural spaces. Yet Henry never allowed himself to be captured. He never let himself be owned by society or by religion. And it may be his wildness that attracts us most. We, with our utterly, overly full lives lived with cares piled on our shoulders, we long to be as unconcerned with society's trappings as Henry. We long to walk among the pines with no more concern than a raccoon or a deer. But there is work to be done. There are mouths to be fed, there is money to be made, there are committees to be run, and there are injustices to be righted. So unlike Henry, we enter UUCL on a Sunday morning. We enter not because we think that God can only be found here, but because we have scheduled an hour for God this week, and this is it. On January 5th, 1841, 23-year-old Henry David Thoreau wrote a short note to the Concord, Massachusetts town clerk. "I do not wish to be considered a member of the first parish of this town," he wrote. And it was signed simply Henry D. Thoreau. The note exists to this day in the archives of the public library. I've actually held it in my hand and seen it. There it is. And both the town and the church have complied with Henry's request, mostly. Though it stings a little to realize Henry did not want to join the Unitarian Church, we have forgiven him his standoffishness because we like the other things that he said and did. We like how his words, in part, led Unitarian Universalism to adopt its seventh principle that calls for the respect of the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. We like how his activism encourages us to stand against injustices in our day. We like how his love of nature calls us to the woods ourselves. This favorite son, this wayward child, this prophet in our midst, this much-loved Thoreau also represents a deep ambivalence that we have generally toward organized religion. We pause with him in the woods at the sound of a church bell, wondering if we should stay where we are or follow its call. Henry David Thoreau was christened in the Unitarian Church in 1817 and grew up in it. The 80-year-old minister of First Parish in Concord, Dr. Ezra Ripley, must have seemed ancient to the boy Henry. His aunt and his mothers sandwiched him in a pew Sunday after Sunday, and it must have seemed an eternity before he was released. The bland, pious Christianity of his day would have fallen on his ears as quaint and ineffective. The posturing and posing at church of the town's best families surely irked him no end. And to hear a dry sermon preached on the weekly biblical selection from the lectionary must have made him long for silence and birdsong. So as soon as he was fully grown, he left First Parish in Concord. He left its formal sanctuary for the wild, expansive cathedral of nature. I imagine Thoreau's departure was little noticed by the church in 1841. And for any but those in Concord, Massachusetts, his formal separation from Unitarianism remains complete to this day. Henry David Thoreau was not anti-religious, though. In fact, I would argue he had a spirituality too deep and too profound to be seen by his own church. A little more than a year after he wrote his note to the town clerk, Henry recorded the following thoughts in his journal. Is not nature rightly read as that of which she is commonly taken to be the symbol merely, that is, as God? I must receive my life as passively as the willow leaf that flutters over the brook, he wrote. I must not be for myself, but God's work, and that is always good. I will wait the breezes patiently and grow as nature shall determine. The constant content of the animal comes from resting quietly in God's palm. I feel as if I could, at any time, resign my life and the responsibility of living into God's hands and become as innocent, free from care, as a plant or a stone. The greatest gift Thoreau and the other transcendentalists gave Unitarian Universalism was the freedom to experience the holy in nature. They surely were not the first people to find God in nature, but they are our direct ancestors who freed us to think and believe more broadly. They pointed us away from a carefully orchestrated church life to a messy, wild spiritual life unconcerned with either salvation or social standing. If we hear Thoreau right, we will hear him calling us to a life that is less concerned with material things and more concerned with the quality of life. If we hear him right, we will hear him call us to love people more than possessions. He tells us to free our minds, and the rest will follow. Whether it is true or not, the story is told that when Ralph Waldo Emerson visited Henry at the jail where he spent a night in civil disobedience and asked, "Henry, what are you doing in that jail cell?" Henry replied, "Ralph, the question is, what are you doing out there?" He would look at us with the same curiosity and ask, "What has Unitarian Universalism been doing since I left?" So, why did the Unitarian Universalist Church of Lancaster put solar panels on its building? Because it was the right thing to do. Much has changed on our beautiful planet since the sun warmed Henry David Thoreau's back on a long woodland walk. Now we have more heat than we need and use the sun's power less than we could. The technology available to us today would astound and impress the transcendentalists. The idea that electricity could be made easily and affordably by panels catching sun's rays would have further convinced them of nature's great power. Just as conservation of forests and streams was important in their day, they would see how humans must work today for the care of the future. Though enjoying its products, in many ways the Industrial Revolution that swept New England towns in the late 1800s horrified the transcendentalists. They could see the smoke-belching chimneys of the factories. They knew industrial waste polluted rivers and streams. They could see mill owners take advantage of their workers, often letting them work long hours under dangerous conditions. The wealth inequality of their day was as bad or worse than it is in ours. But like us, they were not content to just let capitalism take its course unchecked. These nature lovers also worked to unionize factory workers. They were instrumental in the founding of the Sanitary Commission, which has become the Red Cross. They helped found volunteer fire departments in towns large and small. They helped pass laws against child labor. They advocated for immigrants and for freed African Americans. Our world is much better today for the work that they did in theirs. And so it falls to us to do things in our day that will benefit the future. The first Earth Day was celebrated in the United States on April 22nd, 1970, well within the memory of most of us. Today it is celebrated by over 1 billion people each year in 193 different countries. The seeds that grew into the first Earth Day were planted by many people, including Wisconsin Senator Gaylord Nelson. An ardent conservationist and former two-term governor of Wisconsin, Nelson had long sought ways to increase the potency of the environment as a political issue. The extraordinary attention garnered by Rachel Carson's 1962 book, Silent Spring, the famous 1968 Earthrise NASA photograph of the Earth from the moon, the saturation news coverage of an oil spill in Santa Barbara, California, and the Cuyahoga River catching on fire in early 1969 led Nelson to think that the time was ripe for an environmental initiative. But the Earth Day, the first Earth Day, would not have happened without some unlikely partners. Under the leadership of the labor leader Walter Reuther, for example, the United Auto Workers was the most instrumental outside financial and operational supporter of the first Earth Day. As Senator Nelson remarked, without the United Auto Workers, the first Earth Day would likely have flopped. Let us not assume we do not have plentiful allies. I was recently asked if I thought that Henry David Thoreau would be more comfortable in a Unitarian Universalist church today than he was in his lifetime. My answer was a qualified no. I said, Henry would admire the bold work UUs have done through the decades to fight for the rights of others. I said he would be happy to see how much we have embraced nature and sought for her survival. Henry would approve of UU children going outside for their religious education classes. He would smile to see our Black Lives Matter banner and our rainbow pride flag in the window. But I don't think that he would come inside for very long. Not because he would disapprove, but because building an institution that lasts centuries is different spiritual work than knowing God immediately. Henry would say we spend too much time talking about what we should do and too little time doing it. He would laugh at the ways we wrestle with a pledge drive and a budget and policies and procedures. Henry would be no more interested in signing our membership book today than he was in 1841. And this is fine. For we are all on a religious journey together, some of us inside the church and some of us outside it. But the far distant sound of a church bell still falls faint on the walker's ear. The same heart that tugs toward nature also tugs toward the church sanctuary. The same holiness that pervades a glade of trees pervades this beautiful room. If Henry stops by UUCL for a visit, we will gladly welcome him in. And if we bump into him on a forest path, we will recognize him as the fellow believer that he is. So be it. Amen.
Standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, ere the great winds urging me on. Greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. My blue boat home.
When I saw Reverend Howard's title for today's sermon, I was transported back to 1967 and the American Lit course I was taking then. Earth Day would not be established until 3 years later, but we college students then were already questioning so many things: our individual faith traditions, the growing war in Vietnam, the draft, civil rights, women's rights, and concern for our environment. Reading Henry David Thoreau, and especially his Walden, offered a wealth of ideas for reflection and discussion. In my opinion, Thoreau surpasses his mentor Ralph Waldo Emerson's literary and social influence because of his wide interests in social equality, nonviolence, civil disobedience, and environmental preservation. In 1845, he built a cabin on 2 acres adjoining Walden Pond, just south of Concord, Mass., and spent 2 years there. Interesting fact about the future ecologist: a year previous, in 1844, Thoreau and a friend accidentally started a fire in the Walden Woods that burnt 300 acres. 9 years later, his most famous work, Walden, was published. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. That's perhaps the most famous sentence of Walden. I live in a woods, small in contrast to the Walden Woods. I didn't go there deliberately or to see what it had to teach, but I have learned much living surrounded by trees. Interestingly, I do see the patterns of life in the woods as instructive and spiritual, probably much as Thoreau did. The woods don't seem frightening, like those where Dante finds himself lost, or Frost calls temptingly dark and deep. I do admit that when there are high winds or ice storms, we do hope the dryad spirits of the huge oaks and hickories around the house are keeping them vertical. April is a wonderful month to see the transformation of the forest from bare to mostly leafed. Right now, the forest floor is carpeted almost completely by the green umbrellas of May-apples. Ferns unfurl in the course of several days, almost visibly growing as we watch. When I first came there 35 years ago, there were nearly a dozen wild dogwoods scattered through the forest, their white blossoms in April showing through the unleafed trees like small votive candles. Sadly, some sort of virus has killed those lights, but just one tree closest to the house is still living and blossoming. Seeing it bloom again is a sign of hope. The redbud tree is magically sending its fuchsia flowers out from its bare branches before it gets around to thinking about leaves. Well, about leaves. Last year, I decided not to rake the leaves that cover the lawn in fall. I had been reading about the benefits to pollinators who hibernate well under a leaf blanket and flourish in the next spring. Who would have expected that we would have had such a cold, long-lasting winter? When I began to rake in March, the sodden masses of leaves resisted mightily. It's April 19th, and I'm still raking. However, I have had the happy surprise of uncovering 3 toads so far. I guess they have emerged from their winter underground burrows and are sheltering under some light mounds of dry leaves. I am partial to toads. Uncovered, they sit still for a while, maybe gathering their wits after being revealed by my rake. Their composure achieved, they slowly hop to a likely place where they can catch some insects and sniff out a water source for egg laying. I admire their seeming deliberation. And that word, deliberation, brings us back full circle to Thoreau, doesn't it? I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately. It's the time in our service when we pass the plate for a collection to support the church. And every few months, we designate a local charity or beneficial recipient and share half of the month's collection with them. And the plate recipient for this month is Right Face, which targets veterans living in Lancaster County and shows how structured writing programs can help restore their equanimity and reverse some damage. The morning offering will now be collected.
We come to a thoughtful, prayerful time in our service, a time in which if you have come to this place with joy in your heart, we encourage you to come forward and to press that joy into a stone or a tile. Likewise, if it's been a rough week or you have some loss on your mind, please come forward and offer that as well. Many of us know that we have a staff member who has been out on medical leave. That's Jill Jablonski. She's our religious education administrator. And she has cancer. There's no mystery there, and she's been undergoing radiation treatment. The treatment is working well, but she is absolutely and utterly exhausted by it, as I'm sure any of you who have had similar treatment can attest. Our own caring quilters have made a quilt for Jill. And what I would invite you to do is, as you come forward, I'll just stand here and hold it. Take a moment and just press a prayer or a good thought into the quilt for Jill. And don't worry, if you hadn't planned to come forward and do the stone ceremony anyway, I'll just leave the quilt up here and you can come after the service and spend just a little bit of time with it. And by doing this, we will just send our love and our care to Jill, and we'll deliver this quilt to her, and she'll know that she's surrounded with our love and our care. Please come forward with your joys and sorrows.
For the beauty of the earth, for the glory of the stars, for the love which from our birth over and This our hymn of grateful praise.
Just give me a seat.
I invite you to sit with this gathered congregation for a few moments of silence, and then I'll offer a prayer. Spirit of life, you know that we know that wherever we go in this world, we experience you. We see you in the beauty of nature, in the trees and the flowers, the ocean and the streams. We also see you in the harder parts of life. We see you in the cities, and we see you in places where beauty is not always evident. Remind us over and over again that this being human is simply a paying attention. It's seeing what is in front of our faces, being open-hearted to it, being affected by it, both in its beauty and its ugliness. Reassure us this day that this path that we walk, this spiritual path, while sometimes meandering and sometimes not clear, sometimes rocky and sometimes smooth, sometimes lonely and sometimes well-populated, is the right path for us. Remind us also that forebears like Henry David Thoreau can teach us things, that old words and old ways of being can be brought to our present day, because the values in those words and ways of being are the same that we hold. We are simply here to love the earth and to care for it, to appreciate all its creatures, its plants and its animals, its birds and its fish. And we are here to love one another. Amen.
Would you please join me in our affirmation of faith, which, if you are not familiar with it, is found just inside the front cover of your gray hymnal. First in English, we will say it, and then in Spanish. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ofrenda. Este es nuestro gran pacto, el convivir unidos en paz, el buscar la verdad en amor, y ayudarnos unos a los otros. Regarding announcements, I'd like to point out first that next Sunday, following the service, is our fourth Sunday potluck brunch. And we gather in Emerson Hall just as we do for coffee hour. And you're invited to bring something that's brunchy. And last month was our first one, and it was well attended, and I hope that next week's may be even more attended. The big deal for following the service today is that you may have noticed that the sun isn't out. And so as we had planned, the service that was going to be conducted outside in the garden instead will happen just below us in Emerson Hall, which is accessible by the elevator or by the steps there. And some of you may have found the little secret staircase in that corner of the building. That will take you quickly to Emerson. Please join us for the solar panels celebration, which a number of people have worked diligently on procuring for our church in the interests of conservation and environmental benefit. And there is coffee and cake there to be had, which you may consume while the celebration is going on. So please join us immediately after the service for that celebration.
And I'm going to sneak in as I didn't quite see it in the service, so remember, today at 1 o'clock, Abigail Garden has a short hour-ish at most concert today. They're Celtic, a duo. Diane Twego will be hanging out and doing some stuff as well, but it's going to be a great time. That's 1 o'clock today, Abigail's Garden.
I agree, they are terrific. So yes, Abigail's Garden is terrific. Stay around for that if you can. But let's sing again before we close our service. Please turn to number 163 in the gray hymnal. We'll stand and sing together, "For the Earth Forever Turning." Please rise as you are able. Number 163.
For the earth forever turning, for the skies for every sea, for our lives, for all we cherish, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the mountains, hills, and pastures, in their silent majesties, in the silent You got it. Here we go. For the sun, for rain and thunder, for the seasons harmony, for our lives, for all creation, sing we our joyful praise to thee. For the world we raise our voices, for the home that gives us birth. In our joy we sing, returning to our blue green hills of
As you go forth from this place, remember that there is beauty all around you, both in sunshine and in rain. Go and be a partaker of that beauty and spread it wherever you go. I'll see you in 5 minutes downstairs for the dedication.